Okay. Hello and welcome to our Heart as a Compass conversation with Lucia King on abundance. And for those of you that don't know, I was guided to do this in last year. I've been doing these interviews since 2016 with different people, artists, entrepreneurs, healers, just people I like their story and I want the world to know about them. And Lucia is one of those people that I met years ago. We were doing a class with someone else and we connected with light language. Like there was this kismet moment where we were like, we know each other and we need to be friends and connect. And um, we've been kind of in a similar circle for a couple years now. And um, Lucia has a very different way of looking at the world. And I love when she reminds me of little things that I've said myself and reminds me of little things that I've brought in that, especially in those sad moments or those down moments or those confused moments, we forget about. She's like, "Oh no, you've already solved this, Paige. Do you remember that time the fairy came through?" And I was like, "Oh no." So when I was asking my guides about how I could be of service, I was kind of shown an umbrella of different light workers and healers, and having conversations with them, not just about setting the intention for the new year, but about each year having a theme. And in all honesty, we're a little bit off for the months because this has been a very profound winter and profound year. And for me, everything has stayed right on track with the theme that was chosen for the month. And abundance is something that I've been seeking and working with for a very long time. And I remember one time I was talking to Lucia and I said something about abundance and she said, "Oh, I don't worry about that. I've got more than enough." And it was so simple and honest. I was like, I want to get to the point where I can say that. And because I'm still working on it. I'm still manifesting. And she was just so honestly and so simply like, "No, that's not a problem for me." And it stuck with me as something that I wanted to attain. And so first of all, I want to kind of introduce Lucia and talk to her a little bit about what she does. She's this amazing healer. She does channeling and light language, and she works with many, many different um, other platforms and other healers. And every once in a while, she'll send me one of her YouTube videos, perfectly timed. They help me out every single time. And she's really connected with that galactic world, that the cosmos, the higher angels, the higher beings. And so welcome, Lucia, and why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your spiritual journey and how you are the woman that you are today.
Thank you, Paige. That's a beautiful introduction. So,
Hmm.
a little card fairy, and I'm really pleased that I met you. And it's really interesting because who am I now? And it's actually, I'm at the point that I learned that I am not what I thought I was,
Hmm.
and that I'm just not one ID,
Hmm.
and that I have many aspects, as everybody has many aspects, but I'm just getting more aware of all these aspects. And I'm learning to be in every moment to just stand open for what's coming true. Uh, when I was younger, I always had the idea that I had to be in a certain way. And maybe a little bit more about me. I lost my father when I was 2, and I lost my mom when I was 9. And I grew up in first in an orphanage and then with foster parents. And while growing up, I always adjusted myself to my surrounding just to have a roof above my head. And that got so in my system that I didn't even think about it anymore. And when I was 21, I started traveling. And I traveled, I lived in Switzerland, I lived in Milano, then I lived in Asia. And when you as a person step in a whole new culture, you get a mirror for yourself. Like who am I when we don't have all the same habits? Then you have this like, And when I was for half a year in Tokyo, and there I had my biggest mirror. Like, this is so completely different than I grew up. So I got this, who am I, really big. And I realized on how many values that were projected on me. And I had to, yeah, not reinvent, but it was like a journey inside, going on all these things that you learn how you have to be, and what is expected in certain situations. And I was traveling all alone at that moment, and I could go with like, oh, today I wake up and I go that direction, and today I wake up, I go that direction. And that's a freedom that I had at that moment. But it's also naked. Like, why do you go that direction? Sometimes we don't think about it, but there's always a force behind it.
Mhm.
What you think that you like, what you
Yeah.
think that you need, what you think, um, how you survive, or are all different things. And it opened me up from my past, and like I was a long time just to have the roof above my head, or be accepted by my foster parents, or be accepted uh, as a person. That was a strange mixture of all my whole background. That was like it was not, yeah, one
Yeah.
thing. So I also tried to figure out how I was as a woman, and
Mhm.
then I was like, yeah, but what is actually being a woman?
Mhm.
And this has been a journey ever since, like on how
Yeah.
we think that we need to be in this whole society. And that brings me to today. Fast forward, and I work with someone that questions about everything. And he taught me that us being here on Earth makes us standing into a thing that we don't really know what's going on. And as soon as we don't really know what's going on, we create a story.
Mhm.
And that story is only based on limited information that we have, but it gives us an identification of what we think that we are, and we play that role. But when you got this really spiritual, when you step in your real spiritual essence, you step in the point where you're open to receive all that you are without having to know the story.
Mm.
And that's the opening through the heart, and there's no fear involved.
Mm.
And when you step into that opening, there are many layers of energies that are all you, but you're just not aware of.
Mm.
And that's actually what I have been doing. I am doing, and
Seems like what
I'm
you've been doing
learning.
your whole life is figuring out.
That's the beautiful thing, because my guides were telling me like a few weeks ago that was my journey, that I
Mhm.
had to experience
Mm.
everything about myself without being in a constricted structure.
Right.
And all the things had to do with being unconditionally me. And what I
Mm.
know now, uh, that it had to do about being black, being a woman, uh, the value of money, the value of power. And that's
Mhm.
all. These are all things that is testing your essence, and how can you stay in your own center instead of adjusting the things to the situation of what you think that's expected from you. And here is the thing what they yeah, I try to keep it a little bit small, but what I learned is that we have our DNA that consists of 12 pieces of star seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and on the other side we have 12 aspects of love, and these aspects of love, they have a positive and a negative side. And all these 12 star races, they have all like a head subject of this of these 12 aspects of love.
Hmm.
And somehow they you get you go to the end where all these 12 star races and all these aspects of love can fluently go together. And that's what we're actually doing now in this age. We go to the 13th aspects, where we integrate all these sides of love and the star races into one. And there you come in the 13th aspect. And yeah,
So it's almost like abundance is being your authentic self on all of those
this is it.
planes.
This is
Yeah.
it. This is it. And for me, it's an interesting journey because now uh, I came to a new part, because the money sometime the money was always just coming, and now I had to I am learning to step in a okay. The thing is, we always have the idea that when money is flowing, we are in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when we give the power to money.
Mm. Okay.
When we don't think about it, when you can be abundant without money,
Mm.
is that a possibility for you?
Where money doesn't
And the
matter.
thing is, for me, yeah, it doesn't matter when you know that you are that center, that everything that you need will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have need the value of money. It can be money, but it can be just in a situation where you pull
Mm.
everything that is needed will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I had this fire, and our atelier burned down years ago, and we lost like 300,000 euros from one day to the other. And I was at the point that I really didn't know where to get my next food from. And I said to the spirits, I don't know anymore. I surrender. And
Mm-hmm.
that was like a start
Yeah.
when the craziest stuff happened. And the money and the situations came from everywhere, things that could not be possible, like a contract from a rent from a store that was for years that I couldn't I didn't have the money to move on. I didn't want to go on, and somehow everything got aligned, that somebody came and wanted to have the store, paid me extra money, and I could step out of it and step in my own freedom, in my peace, to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And it
Mm.
was all, well, even the way, yeah, you know, when you go on the street, and when I go on the street with my daughter, also she has that since she was little, people are giving her things, just like that. And somebody else told me then, like, it's important that she plays with it, and I'm really happy to teach her in that way, that
Yeah.
it's not a worry. It's something that she shouldn't worry about, but it's just coming. But when she's really in a sad area, it doesn't happen. And
Mm-hmm.
she went through
Can
the
see how
process of
that works.
learning.
Yep. I've done that with my daughter
Yeah.
too. It's similar situation. Actually paralleling you in so many ways, I didn't even realize I also had a house fire. And so I went through that as well. But my daughter, I've told both of my children many times that just because I say no doesn't mean the universe can't provide it for you. And for the longest time, they weren't really understanding what I mean. But then there was this camper that my daughter really wanted. It was a Barbie, and she was younger. And I was like, no, no, we can't afford it. It won't happen. And I said, but it's not a no. You just have to be open to receiving it,
Find
she
a way.
found it.
Yeah.
She got it. And it was like, it was one of those funny things. And she looked at me with this look in her eye, and I was like, that's it right there.
That's it.
I was like,
That's
just because I
exactly.
say no doesn't mean the universe says no. So
It's not this, maybe not this way.
yes, exactly.
There's another way. You know, that's actually funny today. Really, today I had a discussion with the spirits, and it was about that you know already all the answers. And I was like, yeah, but humanity, uh, the answer is maybe there, but humanity doesn't always know how to find it.
Mm,
And then they said to me, yeah, but they can. I said, I know that they can, but we do not always know how.
yeah.
And then they said, you just have to step into the answer.
Mm. The answers are so simple and so beautiful. Yeah.
They are always so simple, and there is this part of me that still has sometimes this resistance, and I know they're in a way right, but it's also sometimes you need to be guided in little steps to feel it and to experience it.
Mm.
And for me, it's I just made a shortcut in telling my life story, but I had situations where I experienced it, and that is easier to know it than that you have to go only to go mentally through a process. And when you feel it that it works like that, it's different as when somebody only tells you, and then you have to find an answer to, yeah, you have to believe. That's it. You have to step into believing, and that's something that's really hard for us human to believe in something that we
Because we're
didn't see.
supposed to make it happen, right? We're supposed to manifest it. And then there's this side of surrender and trust, which is really difficult.
Well, there's also something else that they taught me. That's yeah. We are in 3D. In 3D, we do everything with our senses.
Hmm.
We hear, we see, we feel, we smell. Our heart, our feeling is in 5D.
Okay. Yep. I get that.
Yeah. In 4D is in between. And it's supposed to be a bridge between our heart and our senses
Okay.
and everything which is happening here. But we use the 4D to be focused on the 3D. And we decide that all the upper things are not real because we cannot see it in 3D.
Mm.
But the point is that we actually create in 5D and up there. Because there, when you create something, it's directly there.
So you're creating with your feelings.
You create with your feelings, and
Mhm.
more everything is up there because our feelings is different in higher layers. But the thing that we don't know, that we also create with our fears.
Mm.
So
I know
when we
that. I've
see
seen it.
yeah, so we see in 3D, we see something happening like, oh, so you see, I'm not lucky, or the world is against me, that are all fears, and we start creating more and more and
Mm.
more. So we kept into that loop, and that's the magic from the heart.
The antithesis of fear. How do you move out of fear?
That's the whole thing. What I was also discussing, and that's just step out of it. They say, and that's the difficult one because we keep on believing, but it's just a step out of it. And what sometimes really helps is small steps, because sometimes um, the big step feels too far. So
Yeah.
you just start with little things, so you can make it bit by bit by just listening to a song that you like, that you change the frequency at that point in your body, and then you can take a next step, or you can look at a thought. Maybe it's even too fast, but It's every time a little thing of joy, because that's a thing. Like when something bad happens, we think we cannot do anything than be in that bad
We feel out
vibration.
of control, so then we almost
And
up
this is it.
to more of that same feeling.
And this is it, because this is what we think we're out of control. But we are actually in control with our
We're
feelings. And
creating.
it's
We're
the mind
creating.
fuck.
Yeah.
We are, every second we are creating. And we think we are only creating as a certain project, but we are creating every second of the day, even when we're dreaming.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, I think.
Yeah, especially then we create with then we're in the astral plane, so we create differently. But when we're awake, we discussing what is awake, because
That's a
maybe
loaded
we are
word, right?
asleep. Yeah, we are asleep here. But the awareness that we are actually a projection of everything what is in our energy field all the time. And when we are going to the heart frequency, and let we can maybe later we do a nice exercise of that, is when you flow, you let it flow into your heart, and you actually open portals, and from there on you create. And then you can also see the perspective, because everything what's happening, what is bad, and there's always, yeah. I was once in a meditation, in a session, say a course was it, and they say you can see in every situation, can see something positive, and also when something bad happens with somebody, you can help them to see the positive in it. And I was like, yeah. So when somebody dies, then you have to say that it's positive. And then I hear this other voice directly answering it. Yes, because you can celebrate the life of the person. And then I felt really stupid, but it was interesting because I heard the negative and the positive voice at the same time. It was directly answering. And I had this aha moment, like, yeah, it's my choice. Even when something hurts, you can look for the positive within that situation.
Right.
And that the fear of pain and dying and everything, that's something you can try to enlarge your perspective of what's happening there, and then it can also be experienced in a different way. It's all, they're all learning lessons.
Yeah.
It's how they say you have, um, from us going up, it's evolution, and that energy coming down into your body is involution. And
Involution.
we involution, involution coming down.
Okay.
So where, from which perspective do you choose to look at life? You can choose where you
Well,
are.
that's the chakras, the Merkaba, right? The downward triangle and the upward triangle, and the bridge is the heart. And we're trying to navigate that space.
It's that space, but the space is even bigger, because if you look at the Earth to the Sun, they're actually the same way as chakras. They're all
Yes.
different layers.
Yeah.
And lately, I've been learning more to start with the Sun, with the solar energy instead of the Earth. And the Sun has all these rings around it, and the Earth is just a point in one of the rings of the Sun, and we make ourselves always the center.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's
the
perspective.
sun and working with the galactic, that makes complete sense. But how, when we are in that three-dimensional chaos of something happening, when we're feeling fear or anger, what how do we How do we move into a different space? What are some things we can do? Because sometimes it's hard. Feelings are intense.
Sometimes it's
They take
hard.
over. They
Yes,
can.
but there's one thing they that's exactly it. Because the most important thing that I've been learning in the last years is that emotions are neutral. And but yes,
Okay.
because the emotions are neutral, but it's the story that we connect to the emotion that make us feel things.
Hmm.
Like when you're angry, it's not the anger essence that is giving you the feeling for good or bad, because anger is often a force for war, making a movement.
Mm.
But there's something which is being mirrored at that moment to you. So when you learn it, to pull it apart, like what is the pure emotion, what is the pure emotion, and what is it, what's the story that's playing out. And
Hold
that's
on. I'm having a hard time processing this. Go back up.
okay. Okay, make it simple. Let me see. uh go to something really simple, not really anger, but when you think a person is annoying.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small form
Right.
of anger. That person is mirroring something in you
Yes, I
that's
agree. And
being
I've seen
triggered.
that in my own life. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. So it's the anger or the irritation that makes you aware that there's an anger inside of you.
Yes.
There's something that you have to look at. It's not that the anger itself is the point, but
Well, how
there's
do you look
something
at it?
being triggered. The thing is, it's not the anger, but it's what is being triggered. And when
It's
you
the
at that
story.
point, you cannot
Got it.
it's it's the story, but it's also something like it can be a story that's a long
Yeah.
thing, like how you maybe grew up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one real big thing. We always have this judgment, because when this emotion is
Judgment.
coming up, we think it's right or wrong,
Yes.
but it's neither of them. It's just the messenger. And
Mm.
when you don't step in judgment, then it already loses charge,
Wow. Yep.
because you can there are different ways. You can step fully into it, or you can just relax into it,
Mm-hmm.
or just look at it as the observer, or you put on some music and you let that energy move through you.
So in the small world, when we're talking about abundance, for me and for people that are watching this, um, our feelings towards abundance are really the stories that we're telling ourselves about finances.
Yes,
And we need to remember when we're telling ourselves these stories that we can stop and observe them. And in
yes,
the
but there's
observation, we can shift it.
in the observation we can shift it, but there's something bigger, because we are as a person telling ourselves a story, but we're also as a collective telling ourselves a story,
Of
like how
course.
we have to
Yeah.
deal in this world.
Hmm.
and and there is a huge story where we all commit to. So when you look at abundance and you don't step out of the story, it's it's difficult. Like, sometimes you can want the idea of abundance, but really
Which
stepping
is
into
why
the
you
bigger
think that there's
story.
like
And when
so
you
many of us that are on the, like they say, the 1% is wealthy and then the 99% are not. You think that's a collective story.
everything's collective,
Mm.
everything. And because, okay, everything is source.
Right.
You are source, I am source, everybody is source, so they're part of us. When you see somebody that is abundant, is just as much you as somebody that's poor.
Right.
And
Yes.
that's a hard one for us. It's like when you have political yeah, how you say that in English? Um, you're convinced that you are like you call it, let's say, social, or you call it Republican or Democrat.
Mhm.
In the end, it doesn't really matter when you
Right.
go really,
It's the
really
story.
to.
Because if you look at both sides of the story, they're so similar in so many ways. They just split.
They're actually so similar.
Yeah.
The thing is, what I learned, there's only one story, and that we are all unity consciousness. We are all source. We
Yes.
come all
Yes.
from the same source.
Yes.
And what does that mean? That everybody's equally. Everything that
Hmm.
steps out of that story, everything, there's a story created,
Yes.
because there's only one story true, is that we're all equal.
Mm.
Everybody who is born is equally to be, yeah, it's equal rights to be here, as equal value.
Because
And every
incarnating on
story
this
that
earth, we all came here to experience the same
you're
thing.
here, you're
Yes.
here alive. And
Yes.
that's the thing, that we look only at 3D, but we think that's happening, and that's an interpretation. But
Mm.
when you look, that's the funny thing. What they also said is, when we look at you, we don't see the physical world. We don't see material stuff. We just see energy.
Mm.
And I was like, that's actually interesting, because I once saw this water pool in action, and I saw this water drops coming up, and they had all these colors. I believe, I'm not sure if I told you, and they were interacting with each other. And
Hmm.
while they were interacting, the colors would merge,
Mm.
and they were moving, and they were these beautiful forms, and it was like a water ballet. And then I thought, yeah, that's what we are doing. We're actually this little factories of energy, and we're having interaction.
Wow. Yes, we are.
It's just one's perspective. And yes,
Yes.
yes. And then
Yes.
when you look at it only in the 3D,
Yep.
it's just one layer of that same energy. It's I have yeah. What lately came true, I yeah, yeah. It's
This
that
is,
golden stream of source.
yeah. There's this.
This
It's so
golden
funny because
stream of source that's coming
abundance is
through.
this word that we throw out, and it's um, so simple and it's so profound at the same exact
It
moment.
is simple.
And I'm so glad that you have this perspective on it, because I think a lot of people come to this abundance perspective kind of like I do, manifestation and small little steps, and you're like, no, it's the sun, it's the galaxy, it's the cosmos, it's the collective.
It's
I love
everything.
that, because it in a lot of ways, if you can think bigger like that.
Don't think small. Why would you?
Exactly. It makes it like it's like the shipping of the mountaintop perspective, or like looking at it from the angel's perspective, right? Like it's completely different and it doesn't
It
matter.
is.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly what I learned, and that's what also I meant with the Earth and the Sun and the solar steps in
Yeah.
between.
Yep.
In which dimension you say, they're all different rules, but it is this stream of source is everywhere, but it is the perspective from which point you look at it.
Mm.
And that's the thing with the creation in 5D. When you create there and you manifest it in 3D, well, actually in 5D, it's a compilation of many things happening on top.
Right.
So when
Can't
you
even
go to
think.
the beginning, when you realize that you are source,
Yes.
there's the difference, and there you start creating differently. Because when we, as humans, we created the story that source is outside of us,
Mm.
and there you start giving away your own power. That, and the power is that you embody this stream of source. And there are the surprises of life, and there you start celebrating.
That's perfect. And that's kind of where I want to end, because I think we've got like 1 minute left, and that's the perfect way to caps this, is that we're source. And that's the
Yeah.
key to abundance. And I love that. I'm so blessed and honored that we did this today. Whatever this is, you joined me and we played in the field and the source. And I just feel your power and your abundance and your energy and your love. And I just think
Thank you
you're
for
this
having me.
amazing soul. And if anybody would like to work with my dear friend Lucia, please reach out to me and I'll connect you. We're all source, we're all connected, we're all together. So, on that note, many blessings and thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear.